again. A little more authoritative now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting is about to begin. Okay. Well, this is great. This is very gratifying. Thank you all for coming. All right, great. Thank you. I have your attention. That's great. Thanks so much. This is really exciting to see so many people. And I know there's probably one or two reasons why you are here. So we have a good strategy, though. We try to have an actual meeting, which we're going to put you through before the big event. But bear with us, because I think we have a lot of good information to share with you today about what the BIRA has been up to and about some of the things that we all are facing on this island. So some really good stuff and some stuff that we still have some challenges ahead. So hopefully you'll find it worth your time. So first of all, on behalf of the board, I want to welcome all of you. I also want to take a moment. You know, this is BIRA's 70th anniversary year. So, you know, I've been involved with the organization, and I would certainly, became a member several years ago when Lynn and I, first bought our house and then eventually moved to the island. But it's interesting. I discovered that fact, in doing some research. Actually, thanks to Ben Ruska, who we've had a bit of a partnership with, and who has really done a lot of research in terms of. In fact, BIRA used to do a newsletter, and he's actually used, and so we now have many years of issues of newsletters, thanks to Ben, who and a couple of individuals who donated them. And what they've done is they've provided an incredible trove of historical information about BIRA, but also, more importantly, about the issues that the island was going through, over those many years. Many of you may or may not know, but Fred Benson was one of the founding members. Of course, he was a founding member of many things, but we're happy to see that he was certainly a part of BIRA. So 1954 was when the organization first began. And so one of the things I wanted to do, I don't know that I can name names here, but I know I see several people. I just want to recognize former board members. I see a few folks here. But I'm going to forget names, so I don't want to raise them. But if you are a former board member, can you raise your hand? Okay. It's really, and I'm sure I think I see a few out here. I see Bud Martin out here in the hallway. I see Jen Phillips out on the hallway. So I just want to recognize the former members because. We have a board of 12. We meet monthly, and the board is highly committed at this point to a wide range of activities and things that we try to do on the island. We're not the social organization. That's the yacht club, by the way. And I would encourage you, if you're not already a member of the yacht club, I'm told you don't really need a vote. Okay, I'll be careful. I used to have a vote. But seriously, we have put and I am serious about you should reach out to the yacht club of folks that are here today. But we have really focused on a couple of other things. So we're not the social organization. I'd love to do more of that. Maybe this kind of turnout says that maybe we should consider a few things. But we've really been focusing on supporting the community and more importantly, focusing on some of the issues that are facing the Block Island. So, in broad terms, advocacy for the island. So before I move further, I want to thank you for the former board members because my point was that people give a lot in many ways to this organization. Our island treasurers are great examples of that, but our board members do as well. And I just want to recognize the former people because as I look back on the history of the island, There's so much that was done over the years that brings BIRA to where it is today, and there's so many things that we can be thankful for from past board members that really worked hard on behalf of the island. So thank you all of those folks that are here, and I'm glad to see that you're here. I also want to welcome our two guest speakers, Police Chief Paul Deane, who I think is out there, and our first warden, Keith Stoker, is over here. So a little bit later we'll hear from them. And we're really happy that both of them are going to spend a few minutes making comments, and then maybe have a brief Q&A. If anybody has a question that they'd like to ask them, you're more than welcome to do that. And last thing, our Island Treasure Award recipients, and I don't stand up yet, but Rita Draper and Kimberly Ward, we're looking forward to recognizing them a little later. I don't think Kimberly's here yet, because I think she's just over the hill, actually a little away. Is she here? Is Kimberly make it?
No.
Is she here yet? Not yet. Okay. She's still working her way, but she will be here to join us. So. So I think this is our agenda. You know, we're going to do a very brief business meeting, treasurer's report. We do have a couple of votes that are by our bylaws required from membership. So those of you that are members will be asking for your vote in a couple of minutes. And I think we've already started the reception, but we will encourage you after the meeting to stick around and enjoy each other's company for a bit.
It's not just the bylaws.
So, as I said, we've celebrated 70 years this year, and there's been a long tradition of community support. So I'm not going to spend time on each of these, but these are just some of the examples of the things that we did. Everything from certainly supporting the medical center and the historical society. Like I mentioned, Ben Ruskell, we had a great partnership this past year where we provided a grant to document a lot of the history related to BIRA, and in so doing, as Ben said to me, those newsletters were really a rich resource for him as he was sort of developing more content for the Historical Society. Helping Hands, Sound Waves, music, music on the beach, blues on the beach, the Community Service Award. We've done a number of things to support the students at the Block Island School. So this is a tradition that we've continued to support. The reality is that in many cases, any one of you can support most of these on your own, and we encourage everyone to do that. What BIRA is able to do is kind of be an extra fuel in some cases to support these organizations, which truly make up the fabric of our island. But we've also really tried to focus on some of these broad issues that are facing the island. So I want to talk about a couple of them. Every year we get together, the board has a retreat, and we really try to assess, where are we with regard to a whole range of issues, whether it be enforcement. Mopeds have continued to be an issue for us. We're really looking most broadly at the capacity of the island, and to what extent can we continue to grow, and have we reached that limit? We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I want to say just a couple things about deer management. That's been a topic that we've all recognized as an issue. Coincidentally, Chief Deane is also, one of our star hunters on the island. But that's not why he's here today. But is there anybody that's been here that was here in 1967 when those first 4 deer were? Actually, there's more people here that raised their hands than I thought would. So it's one of those crazy things where as we sit back today and say, what were we thinking? But it's clear that we continue to have too many deer on that. A recent BIRA survey of members indicated that a very significant percentage of year-rounders and part-timers have continued to be bitten by ticks. So that issue is certainly not escaped us yet. We've been paying for, BIRA has been paying for, I'm not supposed to call it bounty, but essentially it's a practice of we pay for each deer that is taken. And we've actually supported that this year with fairly substantially. In addition, BIRA supports, pays for the disposal of any deer waste. You know, the deer that are hunted are used for meat, for food and so forth, but there's always a bit of waste involved. So it's one of the realities of what has to happen. So we pay for that as well. Having said that, there continues to be an issue with deer, and while this past year there was a significant number of deer that were taken, anybody who has a yard will say, okay, well, there's still quite a few.
Right. Yeah.
So it's an ongoing issue, and it's one that, unfortunately, the deer task force, which had been in place for a number of years, is no longer operational. So BIRA has really looked at trying to take on a bit more of an active role. So this is an ongoing process. Several board members have done a fairly significant job of doing research on the history and also what some of the options are, and we are hoping that, well, for one thing, we actually have a meeting set up this week with several people on the topic, and we want to reach a point where we possibly have another forum to help educate the public further on maybe some possible solutions. But it certainly is an important issue that we're really looking to try to get a handle on. So more to come on that, but again, there's a lot of work happening in the background. The second item is Ordinance Enforcement, and I'm really happy to say that we saw some positive trends this summer, and I think Chief Deane is going to talk a little bit about that when we bring him up a little bit later. But there's more to be done in terms of general enforcement, and there's a whole variety of issues that affect quality of life. Those are sort of quality of life issues, but we continue to focus on that. The third area, again, is one where I don't have a lot of progress to report on, but in fact we're really just starting to look at it. And this is something that's came out of some discussions with Keith over the past year. Island capacity. On peak summer Saturdays, we now have 25 plus ferries bringing people, cars, and everything else to the island. Those of us who spend a lot of time here, whether we live full-time, part-time, or are regulars of some kind, immediately think, well, that may be too many. The fact is that's a 50% increase over what was coming to the island just 10 years ago. So think about that. Think about the infrastructure. Do we have enough water? Does the water aquifer that supplies the island and may have done just fine for the past 300 years, is that enough for this kind of growth? So that's one of those existential issues. But if you don't start talking about it and start looking at it, nothing is going to be done. And nothing is easily done on Block Island, as you all know. But that's an important topic that we're really going to pay some attention to. There's a bunch of other issues that I'm not going to talk about specifically, but you can see there's sort of funding and tax equity, island sustainability, affordable housing, and really focusing on the whole issue of seniors and whether the quality of life and the whole concept of allowing people to age in place. So these are issues that we call them on our watch list. We don't have an active plan on them. We try to support other organizations and individuals that are working on these. But they're here because they're important. We recognize their importance, and we want to sort of keep them at least on the forefront. We also try to be responsive to issues that arise, unexpectedly in some cases. A bridge across Ambrose Swamp caught everyone's attention this year. So this is an interesting snap quiz or a survey that we did, but BIRA did, and we're trying to do more of these. We did a spot pulse survey. 99-point-something% of the respondents, and we had a significant response to this, were opposed. You can see the 99.8%. I think there was one individual who was in favor of it. BIRA weighed in, as did many of the other organizations. So, this wasn't just BIRA, but the Nature Conservancy, the Block Island Conservancy, the Town Council. This is one of those cases where I would say there's that 99% is pretty accurate, I think, for the island when you think about it. Unfortunately, the jury is still out, literally. The DEM is, the next thing will be to be hearing from the DEM. And Keith, I don't know if we've heard any new information on that?
No, nothing.
Yeah, so, we're going to continue to try to anticipate that. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that this project could still be approved. So, as ironic as that may sound. So, but again, we took a position, we polled our membership, we were able to use that, I think, as a way to, we truly want to be the voice and be recognized as a voice for people like yourselves. And I think that pulse survey was published, it was part of our communication with the DEM, so that whether they choose to ignore that or not is another story. But at this point, we represented that there's an overwhelming majority that will be opposed to something like that. I think on that note, I want to kind of move to Bob. Here he is. Bob's going to spend just a couple of minutes on a very brief treasurer's report.
Okay, so this is the tedious, numeric, regular business part of the meeting. But I will talk a little bit because there's a number up here that says our net income's gone down 76%. And if I were any other form of business, I'd have some explaining to do that we have net income down 76%. But there's actually quite a good story behind that. Over the last few years, we've had a very successful effort in fundraising. And so last year, our income went up by 41%. And we were doing the wrong thing a little bit by accumulating funds. And so last year's net income showed that we took in more than we spent. That's not fulfilling our mission very well to hang on to the money. We want our money out there working. So this year we are actually on target by having a nearly flat net income. And we did ambitiously set to match the great income we got last year this year. And I'd say we're on target to do that. So the financials are in good shape and we're supporting our mission well. And that's our treasurer's report.
Next up, this is going to go quickly. I want to introduce Craig. Our bylaws were last updated in 2017. And over the past 6 months, Craig has led a committee that took a look at them and trying to refresh and update these bylaws to make sure that they were in keeping with our mission and the value of the organization and current technology, certainly. So I'm going to hand this over to you, Craig.
Thank you. My report will be a little bit longer than Bob's and should last just under an hour. All right. So what happened was 2017 was the last update to our bylaws, and we decided that it's time to take a look at them. A committee was headed by me, and it consisted of Marty Dunn, Sue Bush, and Bob Benjamin. And what we were looking at was to where we should update our bylaws to really become more consistent with day-to-day operations of the organization. So in September, it was emailed out, or links were attached to a notice to the membership. And I'll go over just a couple of the major changes. A lot of it was grammatical or update as to the organizational structure after doing some research with the Secretary of State. But a couple of things bear mentioning. One of them was we included email as a form of notice to have a meeting. There was no provision for that in our bylaws before, and now, of course, email has become a primary way to communicate. Another change there was, which we increased the number of people that can be elected to the board every year to 6 from 4. And we also expanded the number of members that can be on the board from 12 to 15. This is all in the proposed bylaw changes. And then one other important change is that we were limited to 2 3-year terms for board members. But it was felt that because we had some real synergy going now with the board, that if somebody wanted to continue to serve and the board wanted them to be on the board still, they can be elected to a 3rd 3-year term. So we've expanded it from 2 to 3 terms that someone is eligible to be on the board. Not required, but if they choose and it's a mutual thing. Those are really the major highlights for the changes. There were some other changes about expulsion of board members and the like, no dramatic changes from what we had. So at this point, you want me to make a motion? I would move that we approve, as an organization, the proposed bylaw changes that were served in a notice in September to the membership.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or any questions that you have for me? Okay, then I would like to move to a vote. All members who are in favor of approving the new bylaws, please show of hands. Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes. We have new bylaws.
Thank you. So in keeping with that, we have 6 board members that are eligible for re-election. They are Susan Bush, Marty Dunn, Mary Forcel, Susan Natecki, Elliot Nuremberg, and Nancy Thornberry.
Would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we elect those 6 individuals to the board of directors.
These are going to be for subsequent terms. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion seconded. Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor of electing these 6 for another term? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations to our 6 board members. Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Okay, so we have 2 guest presentations. So we'd like to invite, first of all, Chief Deane. If you're ready, we'd like to invite you up. I think Paul has prepared a few brief remarks, as has Keith. But we really wanted to provide a little bit of a perspective and then offer an opportunity for any questions. And I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you, Chair. How are you all this evening?
Great.
So I didn't mention that this is possibly your first.
This is one of my first public speeches.
Let the record show.
I was driving back from Maine this morning and was talking to my wife, started about 5 a.m. She said to me, she goes, well, they have a full-page ad in the Walker. And it says right in it, you and Keith Stover are the guest speakers. So I asked her, I said, do you think I should prepare a speech? Might be a good idea. I did not. I do know a lot of you. There are an awful lot of very familiar faces to me here. For those that don't know me, my name is Paul Deane. I've worked for the police department for 21 years. I was just given the chief's job in January of this year. So I've come from 7 summers prior to being hired full-time to getting hired full-time to now being the chief. And it is, I said to Sarah not that long ago, it's a little surreal sometimes that people are always calling me chief and chief and chief and chief. And it's an honor. It really is. Having been here in this community for so long, it also gives me a little bit different perspective than perhaps some of the other chiefs that we've had in the recent past. This is my home. This is where I live. This is where I raise my kids. One of the first couple years when I was working here, DJ weekend was a bit of a mess down around the valleys. So the chief at the time called on the radio, said, I want everybody down here now. Being a couple years out of the academy, I was ready to go arrest everybody. And I had a small boat that I ousted out of for a couple of years, and they wouldn't allow my wife to bring my kids down there late in the afternoon, just because of some of the things that went on down there. So I went down there with my new big boy pants and my big boy attitude. And several days later, that chief asked me, and he said, Paul, he goes, what was that all about? And I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, it irks me that people think that they can come here and do whatever they want, and that there is no consequence. That's kind of my philosophy on how I'm going to do this job. I love my community, I love my home, I love my neighbors, and it irks me when people do that. I had a defense attorney 2 weeks ago for a DUI on a moped. His client got charged with refusing the breathalyzer and the DUI, and he said, Chief, it was just a moped. It's not that big a deal. He goes, can we work out something? And I looked at him and I said, just a moped in my town. Your options are no. You choose refusal DUI. I said, we are not making deals. I'm not doing that. If you are going to come here and misbehave, there's a punishment for that. So that's my philosophy on that part. The other good part of having been in this community for so long is knowing most of the people in the community and knowing when someone has made a mistake, but they're struggling with other things, and being able to use the position that I'm in to get them help. Sometimes it's forcing them to get help, but it's trying to get them help. And our town solicitor, Nick Solicho, and I had a conversation about a month ago, and he actually said that to me, and the judge and I were talking about it, and he said, Chief, he goes, you are in a unique position. You know a lot of the people that are going to be coming in here. So I'm going to help as much as I can help. But we are not tolerating the come and do whatever you want. This is Disneyland. That's not. I can't do it. So this past summer went, I think, really well compared to a couple summers prior during COVID. I did notice that there seemed to be an increase in the number of families coming here this summer. Coming off the boat, 4, 5, 6, all with their stuff, going to the beach, going to come and have a good time, and a lot less of the other route. And I'm not sure how we can continue to promote this, and maybe working with something with Interstate, promote the families to come, because they're the ones that are going to come and spend money in your shops. They're the ones that are going to come and go to your restaurants. They're not the ones causing the problems. So that's something that we can work on as a community. How do we attract more families? Because the more families there are, the less the others want to come and do their foolishness. Okay? One of the difficulties I have right now is my summer help. Our community service officers, which I'm sure you all see during the summer, they wear those bright green shirts, so they're standing out in the middle of the road, they don't get hit. I only had housing for 4 of them this summer. I had almost a dozen applicants. We could have had more, we just had nowhere to put them. The other part of that is where we were putting them down at the Coast Guard station. That needs some real renovations quickly. One of the girls had said to me, almost every morning she wakes up and she flicks the paint chips out of her pillow. So if we want to attract good help to come and stay and come back summer after summer, they get paid pretty well now, but we need to help with the housing, and that's honestly my biggest issue there. And My full-time year-round guys, I have 2 that are going to be going into the police academy in January. They'll be graduating in May, so we will have 2 new full-time officers, one to replace me and one to replace Chip Anderson, who just transferred over to Brown. The town council has been very, very supportive in terms of the police department and the wages. That's one of the big things in our industry right now, because a lot of people stopped having an interest in our industry a little prior to COVID. Some of the things that went on during COVID and some of the other riots and other such things that happened in our country prior to that. The state police typically had 1,800 to 2,000 applicants for a hiring period. They barely had 500. So it's not just Block Island, it's our industry as a whole across our country. And a lot of it comes down to money, and that's where people are going. Fortunately, as I said, our council has been very supportive, but that might need to change in the coming years. We may need to offer a little bit more than somebody else does on the mainland, because some of them are leaving their families, and that's where I run into issues during the summertime, is getting summer officers here, because they're having to travel on the boat, they're leaving their families, they're staying over here, and honestly, they can make more money sitting in the car doing road details at a construction site on the mainland. So, but we are going to persevere, and we're going to keep pushing on. Just, I'm happy that I have the job, and as I said, my philosophy looking forward is just no more of the foolishness. Joe is, I'm not done yet. Joe actually had brought up a couple of points that over the years we've seen the increase in the number of cars. The mopeds have stayed the same. They've been 34 in each operation for I don't know how many years. Bicycles, pedestrians, etc. And I was having a conversation with a couple of my friends about 1.5 years ago. And they said, the problem is that our infrastructure is not built for what we're introducing into it. They said the bigger cars, the mopeds, the bikes, the traffic. And they said all of this was done in the 70s. And he turned to me, looked at me, and he said, go back and look at pictures of downtown from the 1800s. It's the same road, same size for horse and buggy.
Yeah.
But now we're trying to introduce all of this on top of it. It's not designed for that. And that's why we have a lot of the traffic and congestion that we have. Joe also alluded to an easy solution. Not really an easy solution to that. Reducing the number of cars, people, etc. We need them to come here. We need the people to come, and we need them to come on vacation. So that's the conundrum that we face. We have infrastructure built for horse and buggy, and we're introducing 2020 version of tourism onto Block Island. The last thing that I'm going to make this one my last comment. Joe also alluded to the deer issue. Fred and Fred will be doing their thing again this year. The town funded twice the tail management program last year, and we still ran that out of money. So that might be somewhere, an area that you folks might be able to help the town with, is maybe funding some of that, to get some of that moved a little more forward.
Any questions?
I think that's about what I got. You want, if you've got a couple of questions, shoot.
Anybody have a question? No question?
Oh, you guys are making this too easy. I do want to do it though. I have about 20 questions.
Can I actually just make a comment?
Yes.
So you asked about how to promote more families coming out. I think the community does a great job in terms of community events and family-oriented events. I think you have to kind of promote that to draw the families in, to bring more families here.
We have a question in the back.
Yes, Jeff, just a comment. Thank you. You mentioned cars and infrastructure. The infrastructure isn't going to change. The roads aren't going to widen, nor should they. So the answer is to not have as many cars come over. And balanced against having more families and other people who respect the island. And I don't think we have an answer to that, but that to me seems to be the big challenge. How do you keep the cars off? And that goes for us too. How many cars do we need at our homes, whether they're year-round or summer homes?
Right.
It's an issue. I don't know if you can solve it, but I'm just saying it's not just the infrastructure.
And we'll go back to horse and buggy, but I don't think that's going to happen. But it's an interesting conversation that just needs to be had. How do we balance having what we need to survive versus quality of life? And that's what we need to find a balance of.
Is there another question?
Would there be a way to limit the number of cars that per household that people bring over? I'm not so much thinking of year-round people, I'm thinking more of summer people. There's a house across the street from me, and I'm not denigrating at all people who rent versus people who are here for the summer. That's not, because as you say, we need everybody, so I understand that. But there's a house across the street from me that rents and always has 2 cars for one family. So is there a way to say that you bring 1 car? And I would say that for us too. For my husband and I are here for the summer, well, I mean now it's not summer, but like for 5 months a year, we have 1 car. We've only ever had 1 car. We raised our kids out here in the summers. So is there a way to do that?
No, I'm going to look right over here at Mr. Silver. And
I was going to say nice things about you.
and that is a, again, that's part of the conversation that we need to have. Can we do that? Is it possible to do that? And that also goes into the council.
I realize that it's a hard issue. I don't raise it to say, and I also realize you probably thought about it.
One thing I would say about that really quickly is, and I don't know how to say this, unlike a lot of communities, our access by car access is controlled by a private company, which is different. That's what I was hesitant to say, because it's not a criticism of interstate navigation. It's just like we don't really have a lot of control over that. In fact, really any. But it's I'll get to this when I talk a little bit about capacity, but one of the things we need to do on capacity is really sort of gather comprehensive and coherent data, because as someone said to me last summer, we can all feel it, but we don't have real data for it, which I think is a really vital part of this conversation. And I'll just go. Because Paul was has been so fabulous, and his presentation was so terrific that I need to say for the record that I was solely responsible for his appointment. Don't you leave. But I'm really glad, obviously glad to be here, but really thrilled to be with Paul, because the most consistent comment I got from people this summer was actually, boy, the vibe seems different this summer. In my opinion, Paul's appointment is sort of emblematic of something that I hope you've all noticed. And this, we have really made a commitment, I think, as a council and therefore as a town, to a particular approach to hiring for a lot of these senior positions. We have Paul Deane. We have Mike Shea. We have Amy Land stepping into the interim town manager role. We have Mona Helterline stepping up to the plate in the finance department. We have Millie McGinnis Hyatt, who we're asking to do more and has stepped up to the plate to say yes to that. We have Laurel Payne, likely to step up to be a new deputy town clerk. The consistent thing there is not just the talent, but appointing people who get the island, who are passionate about the island, who care about the island's future, who have made their lives here. And to me, if there's anything that I'll sort of look back on and be proud of, it will be the way that the last couple of councils and hopefully the next council sort of focuses on that approach to hiring as essential to the long-term future of the island, because this sort of revolving door thing, and I get that's not criticism, man, right? It's just like, how many times do we all get, what do you do out here in the winter? What do you do out here in the winter? And our Susan and I have a stock answer, and that is, it's not for everybody. It isn't. And you know, frankly, on a February where I don't feel guilty reading for a few hours in the afternoon, I love it here in the winter. But we can't expect it to be for everybody who comes and works here either. It is not a frictionless existence. I guess is the way to put it. But I really do think, and again, what you see with Paul, where you have a guy who, as he said more articulately than I could, has made this his home, that guy hits the ground running in a way that nobody else can. And I think that's really very important to our future on the island, and to continuing to have a good vibe. One of the things that Joe and I have talked about quite a bit, and we've talked about on the council, and is this capacity issue. And if you look at any large newspaper, large American newspaper, large international newspaper, you'll see that we're not unique in having this conversation around capacity. Did you see like the protests in Barcelona and in I think Lisbon, and I mean, everybody is thinking about this. And I think every community that thinks about developing policy around this has some fundamental similarities. we have, whatever the number is, we have to staff a police force for, let's say, 25,000 visitors a day. How does Paul Deane or Bill McComb, or, like if you're the chief, figuring out how to deploy for that is really immensely challenging. I don't think, I certainly did not appreciate before I took a more public role just how challenging that is. And it's not unique to the police. Look around, whether it's the town clerk's office, land use. I mean, throughout town government, having a community that's 1,200 people for several months and 25,000 for several months is a gigantic but really, really interesting management challenge. I mean, that's sort of part of what makes the job interesting is figuring this stuff out. But as I said earlier, I mean, to me, the first step, and I've talked to a number of people about this, is gathering data. I've actually spoken with and been engaged with a number of consultants, one in particular, and this person, I was asking her. She's a PhD mathematician, by the way, just like me. And I'm thinking. I said to her, "So, like, what do you have to do? Do you have to hire kids, like with clickers, clicking visitors in New Harbor and Old Harbor and saying?" And she literally just laughed in my face. It's all done. It's all done with your iPhone now. It's unbelievable. It's actually kind of disturbing how rich the data are that you can get from your iPhone. So, I think you'll hear more about that. I'm happy to answer any questions. I am. One thing I did want to say, and I don't want to steal the thunder from the award, but while I have the microphone with Rita and Kim, because everybody knows that they're the first people to say yes to virtually every community need. But I wanted to mention something that probably everybody knows, but that really, I think, bears mentioning, and that is, you think about the things for BIRA or for the Nature Conservancy or the medical center, etc. I think we all know, and the thing that really touches me is the extent to which Kim and Rita help individuals on our island. We have a very high-touch, informal human services infrastructure here, and I think it's people like Rita and like Kim who make that work because they so graciously give to people who need help. So I'm just really honored to be here on the day that they would receive this award. All right, have at it. What are we doing wrong?
Question over here.
First, thank you, Keith and Town Council, for all of the work you do. I appreciate it. It's my understanding this past year, a bill was introduced that would modify the statute that regulates what the town can and cannot do regarding mopeds.
Yes.
And that it was introduced by one of our state legislators, and it was tabled. The Speaker of the House tabled it.
Yes.
My understanding further, and if I'm wrong, correct me,
You're not wrong yet.
at the hearing on it, the moped operators and our
Elliot,
former...
could you stand up so we
I'm
can
sorry.
hear you?
It's my understanding that at the hearing in the state, hearing in the state legislature, that the moped owners and the former town chief said there was no problem. Why wasn't hundreds or many of us from our organization, from all the peoples here, why weren't we notified to be there to show that the moped owners and the former chief of police do not represent the community.
I think we'll get our bite at that apple. Honestly, the strategic decision that was made was to be as low-key as we possibly could, because what we were talking about was not earth-shaking stuff from our in my opinion, from anybody's perspective. It was about the town being able to do ordinances on things like appropriate footwear, helmet fitting, tandem riding. I'm sure I'm missing one, but I mean, not. We want to drive you guys out of business. You know, I think it's highly problematic to ask the legislature to do that. They wouldn't do it. One thing I will say is that our Block Island's legislative delegation, Tina Spears in the House, Alana DeMario in the Senate, could not have been better and more dogged on that. And as you probably know, it passed the Senate. You know, it wasn't like there was no interest and excitement. It went quite far. The speaker actually reached out to say, "Do you want to try to take that up early?" So there's more to come. More to come.
A simple thing, and it is simple. The rental bikes.
Those are always the scary ones.
Yeah. You know what I've noticed? They're not required to have mirrors. And so the riders don't know that there's a car behind them.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, why aren't they required to put mirrors on?
This is the first I've ever heard that one. Good question. I don't know.
I've noticed this for a
Yeah,
long time, and
interesting.
it's like, that's scary.
Interesting. Yeah.
That is scary.
I'm still astounded by the number of people who don't have their kids wearing helmets.
Yeah,
Paul must see that all the time. Under control. It's unbelievable. I saw someone the other day. It was a parent on a bicycle without a helmet, pulling a trailer. You know those low trailers with a kid in it who didn't have it, who wasn't wearing a helmet. That's pretty crazy. Any others?
Any other questions?
You know how to reach my thing.
You got it.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move to the final agenda, two things that I meant to announce before. First of all, if some of you are not current members of BIRA, there's brochures out there, and you know our website, BIRA02807.org. We'd love to have some of the non-members or people who need to renew. We could use your help, so I'm putting that plug in. And the other thing, I forgot what I was going to say. I had another point, but it'll come back to me. So at this point, I would like to kind of move to the point in our agenda that many of you have been waiting for, our Island Treasure Award. The Block Island Residents Association is delighted to recognize Kimberly Ward and Rita Draper, and I hope Kimberly's here. Did she make it? Kimberly, she's still over.
Agent to receive her award.
Okay. I'm going to give you one more second. I want to say a little bit about the both of you, and then I'm going to, if Adrian can make it up here eventually, I'll be delighted to give the award to her. So in making this award, BIRA recognizes the enormous contribution that both of these two individuals have made. Keith, you did steal my thunder, by the way, but you said it so well. These are two folks that are truly unparalleled in contributing their time, their resources, money, and their incredible spirit and energy, which is truly remarkable. And what's equally noteworthy is that both of these women have built and managed successful businesses in such a caring and responsible manner. For me, they are such true role models that they have been successful business people, but they've done it with compassion and have continued to give back to the island every day. And we just really, I'm delighted to be able to recognize that they know how to do it. So now we can have Adrian, if you want to come up, if it's possible to do that, or we can come to you. Why don't we come to you? You sit down, Adrian.
Wants to stand, but if you could come this way, that would be great for both of us.
Where's Bob? Is Bob here?
He's also very sweet. Here he comes.
Okay, so hold on here. All right. All right, so I'm gonna.
She's a working gal.
So here's my comments about Kimberly. So Adrian, you're going to take notes, right? we are recording this, so I think it'll be important for Kimberly to see this eventually. She's doing what she always does. She's hosting a wedding somewhere, and I'm sure making a very special occasion for a very lucky bride and groom somewhere. I think. I believe it's just over the hill. Okay. So maybe we can turn the speaker on. Maybe she'll hear us. Kimberly first came ashore to Block Island in 1989 to manage Dead-Eye Dick's, and she made that a runaway success for many, many years. She then moved on to manage and co-own the Beachhead before having the opportunity to open her very own restaurant, Kimberly's. We all know Kimberly's as a place where everyone feels the warmth of her presence, her personality, and her friendship. I mean, whenever you go in there, there's definitely there's a vibe. There's a Kimberly vibe, and it's something that we all have come to value and appreciate. So it's a very special and unique environment. Most recently, she became a partner of the very popular Block Island Oyster Bar at the Manasees. So she's definitely the ever-ready bunny. She continues to do just amazing things. So Kimberly's kindness knows no bounds. She has always been quick to lend a helping hand. She's always there when someone is in need. As Keith pointed out, both of these individuals have truly been available to individuals as well as organizations. And so many individuals and countless local charities, Double Ender Committee, Lions Club, Block Island Medical Center, and many more have truly benefited from Kimberly's generosity and her enormous heart. I want to move to say just a few words about Rita, and then we're going to give both awards. My wife Lynn and I, she's sitting right here, we first met Rita. And I think it was Seth or Kyle. It was 1986. So which one would that have been? If it was 86. And the reason I'm saying that is because we were guests here, and after enjoying a very sumptuous brunch, we observed Rita as a young mom, kind of walking around in between the tables, chasing after. Well, okay, this is the next generation. So it was Kyle or Seth. I'm not sure which. It was one of them, but they were literally, going underneath the tables, and she was, calling them to. So I've had this memory of that event, for 40 some odd, almost 50 years now. So, but Rita has continued the Abrams tradition of being, coming from such a strong family and having the foundation of really making vital contributions to the Block Island community. She has made and continues to make lasting impact on so many people and on island life. She's created economic opportunities, both for full-time and part-time workers, because she offers, we've got a year-round business as well as seasonal jobs. She's also tirelessly volunteered to bolster the business community and does so much for Block Island and beyond. As a steward of the island and its community, Rita has served on the board of directors for the Block Island Conservancy. She's been involved in the Nature Conservancy, certainly supported various holiday events, fireworks parade by the Double Enders. In fact, you saw the picture of our two recipients. I was delighted to see that was published in the Block Island Times last week, I think. So that, I think, really does sum it up for us. The last thing I want to mention is I want to thank Rita in particular for hosting. I knew there was something I wanted to say. And this is truly just an example. I mean, she has donated the time for staff, the facility, and everything that we have today for a wonderful meeting because she cares about the island and really wants to do what she can to support organizations like BIRA. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
As you can see, it's a family affair. Down to our little 2-year-old.
That is amazing. That's great. So, we announced that Rita and Kimberly were our 2024 Island Treasures. I had so many people come up to me and to say that was such a great choice. They were just enthusiastic, and it always feels good to know that, okay, we're doing the right thing here. But, that's because it really is impossible to think or imagine Block Island without these two ladies. They're a part of the fabric of this island, and I think we all certainly appreciate and love them for that. We as a community are truly their beneficiaries of generosity, kindness, and the can-do attitude, the energy. So Rita and Kimberly not being here, but she's got a great representative. I want to say. I want to say thank you. First and foremost, Block Island is indeed fortunate to have you both as mainstays of our community and true island treasures. Thank you and congratulations. You as her getting close to representative.
Thank you. She considers this an honor and a complete surprise, and she treasures it. And it was an honor for me to represent her. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. We are so happy to have you here with us today, Adrian. So glad that you could make it, and I can't think of another person who is better suited to receive that award for her. So, thank you.
Joe, can you just turn and let me get all three
Yep.
of you? That would be great. Perfect. Thank you.
One more, hold on, because I got to finish this. I want to also present Rita her award from the Block Island Residents Association. Thank you. Thank you both. So that does conclude our meeting. Thank you all for coming. Again, we certainly have time to refresh our glass of wine and a little treat. So please stick around and enjoy each other's company. Thank you very much.